Hello, everybody. Welcome to Zen Money Monday Live. It is summer officially, which is very exciting. And I'm super excited to share a conversation today with Eileen Reed. We met last in March at an event near Boston, and she was helping host a great afternoon with women about business and leadership and all kinds of good stuff. And Eileen is an expert in simplicity and reduction of chaos in your life. And I think it's a wonderful way to also engage in the conversation around Zen money. So I asked her to come on the show. Thanks for being here today, Eileen.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure, Liz. It was great to meet you in March. Thanks for coming. And I'm delighted to be with you this morning.
So you're somebody who's gone through maybe we think a lot of times around people who are solopreneurs or in the online space, or actually your work isn't technically in the online space, but who get into entrepreneurship after having a successful corporate career. And you had a really big job before you started your business, correct?
I did. For almost 20 years, I was a really successful salesperson for a software and IT consulting firm. And it was a lot. It was a lot. I felt it was just really that corporate hamster wheel. And as great as I might have been in May, I could have been like the queen of the place. In June, reset back to zero and clamor, climb, claw your way back to the top, and then just keep doing it.
Did you feel like sales was something that you did inherently well? I think a lot of us struggle with that part of our business, which obviously is the lifeblood of our business, let's be honest.
Yeah. So I am good at sales. My parents tell a story of when I was probably 3 or 4, back growing up in Longmeadow, Mass. I went around to the neighbors selling dandelions. And I made some money, not going to lie. So I really do enjoy it. I always looked at it more of just an opportunity to connect with people and to try and solve problems. But I was very good at it. And the last 2 years of my tenure in corporate, I actually became the corporate sales trainer. So I do think it does give us an edge. But what's funny, Liz, is that when you're selling a company and their services, it's easier than selling you. And just, oh man, that's a transition. It's a little bit of a leap.
What has been the biggest hurdle you feel that you've crossed in that realm in particular? Because I think we all struggle with that. It's very easy to say, hey, have you met my friend X? Or, hey, I'm working for a business and I can just, we're not emotionally engaged in the same way when we're selling ourselves for a living, which so many of us are now.
It's so true. You know, there's a vulnerability. There's like the buck stops here. It's simplify with Eileen. It's me. It's mine. And I think we also just, when it's ourselves, we're sort of conditioned through life to not be too boastful or, just blah, blah, enough about me. What do you want to know about me type of thing. But I think when I really got connected to the heart of it and looked at it more as, who am I serving? And the fact that I really can transform lives. I can make things so much better for people. And when you just sort of take away all the sales tactics and really get to the heart of it, it became so much easier.
Yeah, I love that reminder. I think we often, in our what I call bear brain, we spiral out into making what can be a very simple conversation, human to human, into something unwieldy and complex and therefore not as successful.
Right, and not as genuine. We try and over-engineer it, and how can I leverage and maximize and blah, blah, get rid of that. Like, how can I solve your problem? How can I make your days easier, your family more harmonious? How can we do that? And when you're more genuine, authentic, and heart-centered, it's easier.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. So you moved out of the corporate world and you've created a business that really has very little to do with your previous sort of business life.
True, which is awesome. and I now love Mondays. I'm like, I get to do this. So my company is called Simplify with Eileen. I'm an organizing and productivity coach. And what I've learned over the 10 years I've been in business is that it's not about organizing, really. It's really about helping people discover just how much more abundant and meaningful and joyful a more simple life can be. And when I talk about simple, it's not just stuff, although stuff is a big part of it. The less stuff we have, the faster we're able to get out the door and the easier we're able to get to work. But it's also, looking at people's just being overextended. Their calendars are cluttered. They're way too overscheduled. Maybe even a small business owner, their processes or their systems are just over-engineered or a little bit redundant. So I work to sort of streamline those so that they're just able to get things done more efficiently. So I really look at the end result versus sort of that whole feature benefit thing that I used to teach in sales training, that it's not the feature, which is organizing and bins, it's the benefit. Like, what do people get? They're more confident, they're more productive, they're more proactive, they have more time, they are spending less money. It's just so many benefits that really come from the work that I do with my clients.
When people come to you, what do they think they're getting versus, obviously you've touched on what they actually get, but are they coming saying, oh my God, my basement is a disaster. Can you come and help me fix it? And it's a hands-on organizational thing? Or how many are coming from I know my productivity could use some help?
So it really is both. And I also do virtual coaching. So sometimes there's somebody who's out of state and I can work with them to sort of untangle and under-engineer and uncomplicate their world. But I'll give you an example of both types of scenarios you brought up. So the homeowner, my basement is a horror show. I just open the door. I'm immediately overwhelmed. It's not working for us. I can't deal with it. So the point is that has so many ramifications into their everyday lives. There's this nagging reminder of decisions not made and clutter and chaos in that basement, and that really does trickle into everyday life. So what I'll do with that person is I want them to work shoulder to shoulder with me. I'm a coach. I'm not a little fairy who's going to go down and organize it and then, a year later it's back to what it was. So I work with people to guide them on what questions to ask, how to determine what is meaningful, what should be kept, what shouldn't. And anything that we do let go, we really work to donate so that it does a service to somebody else in need. So we work through and build systems and declutter in a way that's intuitive for that individual so that he or she can really maintain it. And they carry themselves differently afterwards. Like the shoulders are down, the smile is back, and they just feel success and accomplishment, not that they're just dragging this weight behind them. And then for the small business owner, they realize that at the end of the day, they're exhausted. They feel like they've been busy all day long, but they can't point to, what did I accomplish? What did I do? What did I check off? So with those folks, we really sit down and look at their workflow, their processes, their systems, or lack of, and try to create those types of things that will serve them better, get them to be able to operate more in their zone of genius, doing the work they want to do, and unencumber them from the things that are holding them back. And for business people especially, like when you are just kind of surrounded by clutter and chaos, like you don't maybe have the confidence, you play a little bit more small, you don't maybe take risks or see opportunities or possibilities to up-level your business. like it really holds you back.
Yeah. I think, often we think, okay, everyone's working 24/7. We get into this grind and maybe we take a vacation or go on retreat or do something to reset our energy or our imagination. But at the same time, we may not be thinking about our actual physical space, which is so, which is so important, right? There's the level of, are we working from our couch, like half splayed out, non-ergonomically correct? That's an issue, right? Or do we have a desk that's full of crap that isn't allowing you to find a pen or a piece of paper to make notes on, or whatever it might be? I think it really affects our mentality. I remember at your event in March, you were sharing some pictures of before and after working with a client to unclutter his workspace. And it was years and years and years of old cables and technology that we don't use anymore. I mean, how many of us have an old, iPod shuffle laying around?
Right.
Works fine, but we consider it obsolete now. And there's a catharsis that goes along with taking time to reacclimate ourselves to a new space after it's sort of gotten cluttered over time.
Right. That was Joe. I remember that. He's one of my favorite transformations. And the biggest thing about like his office was his home office for his business was so cluttered. He ended up taking his laptop to the kitchen island, and now he's far away from whatever resources he needs there. And Mrs. Joe was not happy. So when we reclaimed that space and figured out what mattered, what was important to have in the space, like his confidence was through the roof, and he felt proactive instead of reactive. He was accomplishing things. Like it just made such a difference for him.
Was he the one who also found his wedding ring buried in a drawer?
Wow, you have a great memory. Yes, he had lost his wedding ring 6 years earlier, and it was in a drawer that he couldn't even get to the drawer because there was stuff in front of it. But there it was in a little, organizing caddy with pens and paper clips and stuff. Yeah, he had lost it 6 years prior. And a year after he lost it, he had to buy another one. So there's that redundancy and that financial aspect. But yeah, that was a real beautiful win to find that thing.
In terms of the, decluttering yourself in the process of actually dealing with the physical scenario around you, what is one takeaway or tip or, first thing that you would recommend people think about if they're looking around their space, listening to our show right now, thinking, oh, wow, I've got some work to do?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is to really just decide. Just decide that you need to make the change. And if you take small bites, I always say that, if you look at it as a Herculean process and maybe you think I've got to take a week off and just shut myself in this place and reclaim it, then you'll never do it. But take 30 minutes. Maybe you're up early, everybody's still asleep. Before you reward yourself with a cup of coffee, take 30 minutes and tackle one area. Maybe it's the junk drawer in the kitchen, or maybe it's all the boots and shoes in the entryway, or maybe it's the left-hand file drawer of your home office desk. But go through that, reclaim it, make a transformation, have success. And it's sort of like if you're going to run a marathon, you don't go out and run 26 miles day one, right? You might run 1 mile and think, oh, I actually did a mile. And then the next day it's 1.5 miles. So if you string together enough of these little 30-minute sessions, before you know it, you're really making a difference. You're transforming. You're building what I call your chuck muscle, getting okay with letting go. And you can really accomplish a lot by just taking it in small bites.
I love that. How often do you feel, because you've worked with a lot of people over the last decade, I'm sure you've seen trends. We, as Americans, have a tendency to like to accumulate things, right? So we kind of pendulum swing with this. And reason I bring this up is that we also tend to pendulum swing when we're dealing with our financial well-being. But from a purchasing of things, of recluttering ourselves, what habits do you see come up again and again.
Yes. So you're right. Our world today is so easy to acquire and accumulate stuff. Like anything we want, we can just bop over to Target or go to Amazon, add to cart, and it's here tomorrow. So my biggest thing is, as a mantra that I instill with my clients, is buy just what you need, just when you need it. We don't need a 40,000 pack of paper towels because there's nowhere to, in our homes, there's nowhere to really store it. So what you do is you think you're getting a great buy. You buy this colossal thing of paper towels. Now you go out and you have to buy a shelving unit in the garage for the overflow. And so that's a financial outlay. And then maybe you're at Costco next week and you're like, gee, because the paper towels are out in the garage, I kind of forget how many I have, so I'm going to buy another one. And this redundancy and this overbuying is not helping us. So buy just what you need, just when you need it, because we can these days. It's not like we're back in the, on the prairie and we're going to town once a month. We can just get whatever we want when we need it. So there's a cost to storing and overbuying and thinking you're getting a deal with a big value buy.
Yeah, I see a huge parallel to tie it back to business building too. I see a parallel with this for a lot of people. And I think it's very fear-based, right? I might miss out on something, or I might run out of toilet paper, even though I actually have a million rolls in my closet, but that I keep forgetting about, where it's sort of it's fear-based purchasing followed by sort of amnesia about it. Because what happens often is we do it with, I need to be, I'm working with somebody to help me build my business, but we've been doing it for like a month. And so now I think I need something new, right? And so it continues to be this over and over money outlay that doesn't necessarily move you or your business forward, just as this other version of purchasing doesn't necessarily make your day-to-day life better, right? We're not at a stage where we're zombies are attacking us and we need to bunker down.
Armageddon. We don't need the big bunker with, all the dried food and the cans
but we think we need stuff around us to maintain that level of happiness or success or whatever it might be.
That is so true. And our culture also is one of the newest, the latest, the greatest. Like, you have an iPhone 6, what? And
I have an iPhone 6 and I'm never getting rid of it.
Good for you. If it's working for you and it's getting the job done, why would you?
Right.
But that message from our culture and the consumer-based world we live in is just, you need the latest and the greatest, the most updated, the best, the newest. And it's so false, so false. So that's another component of that. And then just what they do too is just, you can't reuse your charger for your iPhone 6 for your iPhone 10. Like, they get you. So, so that's a big part of it. But absolutely, the FOMO. I'm all about JOMO, the joy of missing out on so many things. That's one of the things I preach.
Yeah, I love that, because I think the other piece about this, and I know this is important to you and it is to me as well, at a bigger global scale, if we're talking about actual things we're creating and bringing into our lives and purchasing to put in our homes or our cars or wherever in our space, and then in 6 months or 3 months or 1 month, we're replacing it, what is happening to the stuff that we no longer want, right? We have a massive trash issue globally. We have a massive plastic issue. And at the end of the day, we're basically killing ourselves in the process by living this way.
Yes. So I work with my clients almost fanatically to not only donate so that items are just serving somebody else, because there are many things that just do have a life beyond what maybe we've used for them, but also recycling. There's so many places like Staples, for instance, will take monitors and keyboards and components and they will recycle the parts. I love that. I love being able to do that. And there are all sorts of, local places that will have, recycle drives or electronic components drives and all that. So the more mindful and aware we are of trying to properly and, in a socially conscious way to get rid of things, the better, because you're right. We're at a critical mass as far as waste goes in our world.
Yeah. And I appreciate you bringing up the reminder for all of us that just because we're done with it doesn't mean it's trash. It doesn't mean it's destined for the landfill. There are plenty of other opportunities out there to use that in another way, in a different home with a different person.
Totally. Habitat for Humanity is a great place to donate. Savers benefits epilepsy, the Salvation Army. There's so many great organizations that really can just allow these things to serve someone else.
That's great. How, as you've built your business, I'm curious what you have found to be the most difficult in moving from a corporate setting where you are a cog in a big wheel to building something of your own and learning how your own internal wheels work best.
Yeah. So I was very accustomed to all the resources, the admin support, the IT support, the marketing support from my corporate life. And starting out on my own, I thought I had a pretty good handle on things, and maybe a little bit better than most. I did, but I also quickly recognized where I needed help. And with unabashed, no shame, I reached out for help. I would go to presentations and seminars and read books and look at podcasts, because why reinvent the wheel if it's already been invented? And I also followed thought leaders in my industry just to see some of their techniques. I joined organizations. I collaborate with, other small business people just to see how we can learn from one another. So, and you recognize your own weaknesses. So one of my weaknesses is the bookkeeping, that kind of financial stuff. So I have a bookkeeper. Yeah, of course. And then at some point in my business, I felt like I got to a certain level, and then I felt like I was maybe a little stagnant. So I joined a mastermind with a brand strategist, and that's really helping to fuel the next level of my success. So reaching out to others who have already gone over the speed bumps, already fallen into potholes, that's, I think, a way to fast track my own success.
Yeah, I think a lot of us find that to be the case. So thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. If you were going to define Zen money for yourself, you mentioned that, for example, the day-to-day financial management may not be your wheelhouse. What does that mean for you? I ask everybody this question.
Right. So Zen money, I thought about this because I've seen your other podcasts. So I think for me, Zen money just kind of means a healthy perspective. Just kind of back to, my frame of reference is what's enough? Like when I got out of corporate, I was making 6 figures year over year, and trips and awards and prizes and all that. But it was amazing when I really just stopped and looked at, well, what's enough for me and my family? It was a lot less. You sort of scale appropriately and let go of the perceptions that, financial or money equals my identity, because it doesn't at all. Really what I do and how I impact others and how I serve the world, that's what matters, not my salary or my commission or my money. So just that healthy perspective is kind of how I see Zen money.
I really appreciate that, because I think many of us struggle with that, particularly if you're in the first maybe 2 to 3 years in business, maybe more depending. There's this idea that we need to reclaim a salary base, that the entire goal of doing the work as an entrepreneur is to get ourselves to a financial place where we have the same amount of money that we left behind. That feels like the first stage of nirvana.
Yeah.
But the reality is, us, if you choose to work from home, if you are out, just however you're doing your work, if you're a digital nomad, whatever it might be, chances are good your requirements for cash flow and all of those things are actually very different. They might be higher, but a lot of times they're lower. And being able to recognize that and adjust and not be in this mindset of, I've got to drive just to get X in my pocket. And oh, by the way, that doesn't mean the same amount in my pocket because now I have to take care of taxes and all of that kind of stuff. I think is a really good thought process to go through as early on as possible to just recognize what you actually need, which may be very different than what you think you need.
Right. And sure, there's an outlay in the beginning. There absolutely is when you're building a business. But I think if you have a realistic 3 to 5 year view, that you're not going to be anywhere near where you were. But I always look back at the 6-figure salary and I think to myself, the cost of my making that money, it was soul-sucking work. It was hard. I had physical, ill effects from it. I had social ill effects from it. And what I gain from maybe a lower income, my gosh, the gain far exceeds anything I could put a dollar on. I'm doing work that fills my soul and absolutely answers a need. And I don't need as much as I thought I did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's in very particular ways. I mean, you can actually break this down. If anybody out there wants to put themselves through this process, you can break it down in terms of, it's not just the stress and the mental anguish that may, or even the physical anguish that may come along with a job that's as big and as difficult as yours was. It's also things, the nitty gritty things like clothing, having to show up a certain way. So we're spending money on wardrobe, we're spending money on gas to get to the office every day, and lunches out, and all of those sorts of things that actually make a very direct impact when you're no longer spending them. You are like, oh, wait, I don't actually need that in my budget, or my budget has shifted significantly because we're doing this all in a different way.
You're so right. Absolutely. Those are tangible, real costs that you're saving. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an awesome conversation. I really like also what you said in terms of your definition of Zen money, because it reminds me of very much this concept of sort of beautiful efficiency or sufficiency that Lynn Twist writes about in The Soul of Money. If anybody hasn't read that, I highly recommend you go out and grab it, because it ties into this deeper conversation of, what do we really need? Right. And if we have abundance above and beyond a baseline, there are other ways we can spend it than the multi-million roll package of toilet paper.
Yes, yes, yeah. What's enough? I mean, that's one of the that's really at the core of what I do with my clients, is help them really define and arrive at what is enough for them, their business, their family, their life. And it's often, and when you strip away all the kind of crap that comes with money and salary and all that, like, wow, do you open yourself up to welcome in, abundance and joy and fulfillment in such a massive way.
Yeah, it's really incredible. So I think Eileen and I would like everybody listening to just keep that in mind. Just take a few minutes right now at the end of this show and ask yourself, look around and say, what do I need to declutter in my life, and what really is enough? And that might mean money, that might mean things, that might mean activities, but it's a really good, to check ourselves every once in a while, whether that's once a year or once a week,
Yes.
to make sure that you're feeling great about what's going on, because it can really open up so much it just feels better when we can give ourselves that space.
So true.
Eileen, where can people connect with you? I know you have an event coming up soon.
So first of all, Facebook and my website are Simplify with Eileen. I think my Twitter is Simplify Eileen. I have a YouTube channel, Eileen Reed. So those are great ways. Oh, and Instagram is Simplify with Eileen as well. Okay. So those are great places places to check me out. The event I have coming up is on October 21st, and it's in Southern New Hampshire in Windham. It's a full day event geared for kind of what we spoke about earlier. I'm a solopreneur, I'm a new business, I'm a small business owner, and I'm maybe a year in, and I'm sitting in my office and I'm thinking, what should I do next? And why am I just exhausted at the end of the day and not accomplishing anything? So I'm calling it Simplified Business Soul Strategy Success. And it's really looking at those three areas for a small business person to help them gain some of the tactical skills connected with soul and heart to get them the success. Eliminate some of those roadblocks and those potholes. So it's going to be a full day event with, there'll be 5 other small business sessions going on in the same venue. And afterwards, there's going to be a big networking thing. So it's a really cool concept with 6 different kind of business coaches doing their same thing and then all coming together. And I think it's going to be a powerful day for that solopreneur, small or new business owner.
That's great. Well, we'll make sure to share links to all of those fun things. And if you want to connect with Eileen, certainly do so, because she has a very beautiful way of helping people feel a lot better in a bunch of different ways. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope everyone has a fantastic Zen Money Monday, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Liz. Grateful to be here.